And we are back, the F2 podcast. This is Colin Stevens here with PC Henry, Nick Izzo behind the scenes holding it down. We are we've got a new topic today, and it stems around the Golden State Warriors. And believe it or not, PC and I see things a little different here. So we're prior to the season when the whole Boogie trade happened, and not so many people wanted to take a big man that just had the Achilles tear, and Boogie's like, oh well, the defending the defending NBA champions want to take me out, I'll go, and so everybody's like calling, oh.
Well, I think it was really, I want to get paid. Nobody's willing to pay me. All right, I'll team up with these guys, and I'll get at all of y'all in the process.
Well, that very well could have been, but regardless of how it went down, the whole cry was, "Oh no, this has ruined the NBA, and it's going to be awful, and the Warriors are just they're never gonna lose. They're going to be the best team ever." Well, while all that was happening, there were some conversations that we had amongst our group, and even some of the people that the guys that we train and whatnot. And I was certainly the outlier, and still may be, but I said I don't think the Warriors are going to win the NBA championship. And so 99% looked at me sideways, and the other person just didn't look at me. Right? Still looking at me sideways. All right, so we're going to unpack this a little bit. So the Warriors are struggling a little bit right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they got smacked by a Toronto team without Kawhi. So, what's going on with them in your perspective now?
I mean, right now, I think maybe they've gotten comfortable. Maybe they're not doing as much of the little things that they used to. There's a little friction between, Draymond and KD, and I think they're both competitors and just express it in different ways. And my opinion is that they are going to sort it out by the playoffs, because they're both on the same mission, because they are both competitors still at the end of the day.
See, this is the thing, is I don't think they're on the same mission. I think, and this was my argument in June or July or whenever July, August, whenever all that went down, was that they're not hungry. Like, they've been in the finals 4 straight years. They've won 3 of them. They're not hungry. Like, they're distracted. They're getting marketing deals everywhere. They're doing everything that – and so because you're not hungry, see, this is the thing, is you get distracted not just by everything that's on the outside, but even on the inside. So there does become a little bit more turmoil in the locker room because they're bored. They want drama. Like, seriously, most of the stuff that's talked about Steph Curry is like – pre-game half-court shots, or the out of the tunnel shot, or like they're looking for highlights and drama because they're bored. And when you're not hungry, there's going to be somebody who's super hungry, a whole team of them that are willing to do what it takes. And when it comes down to it, the person who's hungry and the person who's not hungry, there's one of them who's going to fight to eat.
I mean, you're not wrong. I'm not going to disagree with you on those fundamental values.
Yeah.
I do think the Boogie piece is really important. One, obviously, is ultra talented, and that adds an element that they haven't had in somebody that you can just throw it inside, get us a bucket.
Right.
I think playoff basketball, that is way more valuable than it is during regular season.
Agreed.
Agreed. But I also think Boogie is in a position where, I mean, everybody kind of knows, like, this is it. Like, you need to show you can play well with others.
Right.
You need to show you can still hoop. And within that organization, you've had a lot of different personalities and everything, but they have all put the team first. Yeah. Like, there's never been the struggle, even when KD got there, about who's getting the shots. Like, Clay doesn't care. Yeah. Steph doesn't really care. KD doesn't really care. Draymond doesn't care.
But it has happened this year of who's getting the shot.
It wasn't over the shots. It was over being soft.
Okay,
That was the rub
it was decision making with
Yeah.
Draymond at the end of the game, and then him pointing the finger at KD being saying you're soft.
And
but,
to me, but I think that's soft by Draymond not to take some ownership, because that was a bad play.
Of course.
But I don't think he's a soft guy. I just think.
But what I'm saying is that those situations used to get figured out differently when you've won one championship, or you went 73-9 and lost the championship, right? And so I just like you can't the hunger thing, like you can't make somebody hungry. Somebody who's not hungry, if they are well fed, fat and happy, and don't have to ever go get anything, like you can't make somebody hungry. And so I think somebody's going to come along, and I don't know who it is yet. Like I was expecting the Celtics to be a little further along than they are right now, so I thought it might have been them early. But Toronto with Kawhi is looking really difficult.
Your best bet.
But I also don't trust Kyle Lowry at all in the playoffs because he's been a ghost.
Well, that's another piece. Is I don't think the Celtics are quite there yet. I think they're struggling with their identities and roles, because I think Tatum's a star.
Yeah.
And I think not really out of a selfishness among the roster, but maybe some of the other guys don't understand. Like I need to have a little less, and he needs to have a little more.
Yeah.
Because I think if you give him the keys to the kingdom, he's going to rock with it, and he's going to be a serious problem. That's what I see from the Celtics, and I think they're the only team. I still think the Sixers are a player away, not a superstar away. I think they're one more.
They need a shooter.
Yeah, they're one more proven playoff 3-and-D guy.
Right.
For me to be sold on them.
So nobody in the West.
And
There's like 6 games.
I think they're not, since the Jimmy Butler move. If you watch them, they've got Joel Embiid playing this stretch 5 role, and I think he needs to be a stretch 5 like 20% of the time. Otherwise, you got to get it. I mean, he's in an era of shooting. He can totally dominate a game from the block. And he's their best player still. As great as Jimmy is, and as talented as Simmons is, JoJo is their best player. And he needs to be able to play his game. Everyone else needs to adjust.
Well, but you're talking about all the teams out of the East, because out of the West, nobody's like separated themselves at all. There's like 6 or 7 games in between 1 and 14 over there. 1 and 15.
Yeah, 5.5 games between 1 and 14.
and
5.5 games. Well done, Izzo.
And but who's beating the Warriors best of 7?
Who's beating the Warriors best of 7? I think any hungry team over there might be able to do it. I'm telling you. I just don't think that they have the oomph this year. I really don't think they care. I think Kevin Durant will be like, fine, I'll just go somewhere else next year, and then I'll get all my money from Silicon Valley. And I think Steph Curry will be like, cool, I'll be on the moon soon anyway, so like,
if it actually exists,
right? If it's actually there, Draymond's just gonna go pick another fight. So I think like they don't. That you can't replace it.
I think they're going to turn it on. I think it's good for some teams. I think you see at a lot of levels that have turmoil early in the year, struggle early in the year, and they have to go through that and work that can revitalize some hunger.
No, I agree. And I think if anybody can do it, it would be Steve Kerr as a coach and Bob
Steph
Myers.
Curry.
I mean,
and Steph Curry is a great leader in elevating others.
Yeah.
And I think he's not going to go in there and be like, y'all better sort this out. But I think he's capable of. I think he's articulate enough, and I think he's proven like he's very much a team guy, and he's still the guy.
Well, sure.
Like he is the poster child.
But if the guy is a little bit distracted, bro. Now I get it. If it can happen, they could do it. Yeah. I just don't think they're going to do it.
And I don't think they have to do it like all out. I think they just need a little bit of hunger. That's the thing.
I know. And
I think they need like appetizer hunger.
Yeah.
To
no,
where
right. They're
talented.
They're talented enough to do that. But it's just it's puzzling to who they're losing to right now. That to me, that's more of an issue. Izzo, do you have something?
Well, just I guess what does it say that they are currently sitting 16th in the NBA in defensive efficiency?
16th in the NBA in defensive because
and
they were the top 2 or 3 for the past long time. And really the cohesiveness of a team and how much they actually care about each other really, really shows on the defensive end because that's where that's where you pick up the slack for somebody else.
So here's my
right?
prediction.
Yep.
If that number, because we're already a good bit into the season, if they are 10th or better in defensive efficiency by the end of the year, they're winning the title.
All right. Well,
because of the law of averages. That means they're probably realistically top 5 going into the playoffs. Yeah. And if they're a top 10 team defensively, offense, I mean, there's no question on the offensive end. Like,
ninth last year.
Well,
the year before that.
So we'll have to when the Warriors get bounced. I don't know if it'll be second round or then we'll have to revisit this podcast and we'll have to go back and see what their defensive efficiency is.
Do you want to put something on
because if it was 11th, then you would have still been correct in your prediction.
So by the time we're talking playoffs, you're like running again. Do you want to put something on this?
Sure. You want to put
what do you think is a
5K on it?
5K? A loser's 5K?
I mean, I'm just
where the winner drives beside them, just like taunting.
And 8K's pretty tough. I mean, I've heard.
Guys, Coach Izzo did an 8K recently, and absolutely dominated it. Had no issue with it. Wasn't even sore.
So before we were actually, pre-show, you brought something up about like this whole hunger piece and like what that could dive into. Do you remember what that was?
No.
So
no, I don't.
So in talking about how can teams, so like individual players, what motivates them? How can you make somebody hungry? Can you not?
I remember. And I mean, the simple fact is it comes from the individual. It can be maybe inspired by others, but it's not by a one-on-one conversation with them, as we've seen with people. There's no like it has to come from within, and I think that inspiration has to come from seeing others act in that way. I think the reason why Steph Curry's a great leader is not because he's a powerful speaker. I think it's because he's never made an excuse for his deficiencies in the past. He's owned everything. When he's had a bad game, it's never on anyone else. And going back to our argument, I think for that simple reason with him, and then also Clay's like that. Yeah. And those guys can see that, and that's contagious. Like positivity and ownership and humility is contagious just as much as a lack of humility can be contagious.
And that's why I think there might be some headbutting there, just because there are some egos that have been managed there in the past. But
so I'm betting on the guys that do have that kind of spirit about them. Yeah. I'm betting on them to stay the course and those guys to fall in line.
Right. All right. So like, and that just made me think, if we're just talking about like athletic hunger, team hunger, like, this also plays a role in our spiritual lives too, right? Because it's funny, like we can go to church on Sundays, or some people go on Wednesdays or Sunday nights or Sunday mornings, and some people don't go to church at all, and they just say that they believe in God, and that's good enough for them. But when it comes to
can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
But it says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness." It doesn't say, "Blessed are those who believe."
Yeah.
It says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness," and it's about intentionality.
Yeah.
Not just being like, "I know that's there. I know."
Right. But it also doesn't sound like it the verse that you're talking about. Can you look that verse up, Nick, or do you know?
Is it Matthew 5:6?
Yeah.
Wow, he was already on it too. Matthew 5:6. So blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness,
for they will be filled.
Will be filled. But the thought in that too is also not blessed are those who binge for righteousness. Not blessed, right? So not a once a week thing.
Right.
Not those
who cram.
Right.
Yeah.
Not. Hey, I'm trying to.
Blessed are those who are killing it on Sunday.
Right. Or just once a week. And the same thing is like, so even for somebody who's hungry, like a high school kid who wants to get a scholarship, if they're hungry, they're going to be at it every day. for a college player who's, trying to crack the lineup or trying to get drafted, like they've got to be at it every day. If it was only like once or twice a week where they were intentional about getting better, then it would just be like, no, well, you're not actually hungry. Like, because even our bodies, we are hungry.
Well, and then all these delusional people that think they deserve a scholarship because they play basketball would all have a scholarship.
Right.
Because basically, once you've decided I'm going to play at the next level, at a minimum, you're doing something.
Yeah.
Once, twice a week. Right. Nobody's delusional enough that where they just show up for the season and go. Right. Yeah, like they do enough. Right. Like there's enough out there where they know that much that guys are working.
Okay, so then
to an extent.
So you basically you're saying that people are delusional if they are doing the minimum and thinking they're going to get the maximum result, right? So in the same thing in our spiritual lives, if we are doing the minimum, and really what the minimum is, like if you're a Christian, you go to church on Sundays, like
I think
sometimes,
that's
or you watch, you may stream live.
To me, the minimum is like a service of some sort, and then praying when things are really bad.
Right. Okay, so that's the
minimum.
Yeah. And that is the minimum. And so what does doing the minimum as an athlete get you?
Frustration.
Disappointment. Okay, disappointment. And it doesn't, a lot of times it doesn't line up with what the expectation is. All right, so if we're talking about our spiritual walk and our life in a way of honoring God, or trying to live in a way that would please God, and we're doing just the minimum, then we're basically saying that it's going to lead to frustration.
Yeah, it's going to be emptiness. I think it's more of an emptiness than, it's being lukewarm, I think leads to more emptiness than if you're just cold.
I don't know if it's emptiness, but I think it's frustration and confusion.
Yeah.
Because it's
because you have an expectation because you're doing something.
Yeah.
You have an expectation that certain things should
well, and the other one of those expectations is that, well, I believe in God, so everything should just go good in my life.
Yeah.
Everything should go well, and I should just have everything that I want, because God blesses. I mean, man, everybody uses Jeremiah 29:11. For I have plans to prosper you, not to harm you. And it's like, wait a minute. That doesn't mean that God's just going to give you a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of things just because there's one verse in the Bible that says that he has plans to prosper.
Well, and I think when spiritually, and then you can see on the basketball side, when you do have the hunger, okay, you've stepped into a whole new realm where now the evil one's going to try and attack you, because now you're a threat.
Right.
When you're really trying to hunger and thirst for righteousness, or however you want to word it, like you're a threat now. Yeah. And so he has to attack you. Right. He has to tempt you. He has to discourage you, just like when you're putting in the work. I'm going to plug Michael right now. Yeah. Michael Green, he plays for us and trains with us. And like that kid gets hated on by so many people that don't know him just because like he's put in the work consistently and he's gotten results consistently, and it makes people uncomfortable because they haven't and they're insecure about it. Right. And so they attack him because he's a threat to their ego.
Sure. And that happens across the board, right? And we see it in sports a lot because the media is always attacking somebody, right? But in our spiritual lives, we don't always see it. We're often just really confused on why things are happening. But the reality is that when the difficult times come, the ones that have been hungry and putting in the time into improving their skill, or on the spiritual side, putting in time growing closer to God and having more an awareness and having more of an understanding of who he is and what he desires us to be, then we'll be more prepared for those times. Yeah. Just like
because you've attacked the struggle,
right?
Like you've lived in it, like intentionally.
Yeah,
you're like, I'm up for this.
Sure, and when you're hungry, like you feel the pains of hunger, like you feel uncomfortable, right? But when you're comfortable and you've had all you need to eat, and there's nothing in you that's desiring anything, then you don't feel any of that struggle or pain or anything from it. So this is my question to you now. is spiritually. We just talked about, can you make a player hungry, right? Or a team, can you make them hungry? Can you make somebody spiritually hungry? Can you make somebody desire God more than they do right now?
I don't think you can make them like with like talking. I mean, I think it's fine to talk to people in fellowship, but I think it's much more. I think you can inspire.
Yeah.
But that's not through you telling them what they need to do.
Right.
That's not from instructing anybody. That's from you living your life the way you would like to.
Yeah.
And then them going, I want that. Like I want that. Like we had a kid reach out to me recently that we've known, and he just wants to be a part of what we do.
Right.
He has no agenda other than he admires you a ton, and I think he would like to live a life that's similar to yours, and so you've inspired that into him. You've not had the conversation with him, hey, you need to do this, this, and this. So you didn't make him do it. He's been on the outside looking in, and he's gone, I don't know what it is, but I want that.
Right.
So I just got to be around it.
I don't know if you know how powerful of a statement that is. I truly believe that the inspiration part is massive, because even when we look at Jesus' life and him calling these disciples before they were disciples, they were just, random dudes, or he may have known them in some way, but when he called them to him, like, they were inspired to follow him. Yeah. Like, he didn't force them to, and he didn't.
And he could have.
Absolutely.
He could have gone.
But we somehow misconstrue that and say, man, if I'm doing right by, going to church and being involved in different things, 3-4 different times a week, then I need to tell somebody else that that's how they need to live. And that's what they need to do. Yeah. And the problem with that is that we as Christians are trying to make somebody hungry instead of inspiring them by the way that we live. Yeah. So what you say in that is huge, dude. Like,
well, we're not God. We don't have the power to change somebody.
Right.
And so we have to humbly just live according to
authentically follow Jesus. And now there's the other part too, where when we believe in Jesus, he also says that he gives us the Holy Spirit that dwells within us, that can act in a way that we can't really act. Like our flesh, who we are, cannot act. So in the way that he does that, allows us to live like Jesus lived. Yeah. Apart from that, apart from the Spirit within us, we can't walk like Jesus walked. And if you think about it, there's nobody that could be more inspiring than somebody that can just walk around and just and heal somebody, or somebody that could walk on the water. Who else just has people following them down the street? Yeah. He wasn't even going anywhere. Yeah. He said to the disciples, "Come follow me." He wasn't even saying, "Hey, come follow me to Jerusalem," or "Hey, come follow me. I'm going to the stadium to give a concert."
Yeah, he wasn't selling it. No, he was just let's do this.
He just said, "Hey, come follow me," and they're like, "Yeah, I'm following you." And then all these crowds are coming along but he's living a life that is absolutely lining up. That's worth following, yes, but it's lining up also with what he's saying. Yeah. His words and his actions.
You can trust people like that, and that's
exactly
for me. In my life, even now as an adult, it's like my mom. My mom, has been sick a lot, and she's still shown up. Yeah. She's still got her work done. And she's never been no matter how you're feeling today, you need to get it done. We've never had that talk. Right. But I've seen it. Yeah. And so it's it feels like we've had that talk. Yeah. But, she's made more of an impact with the stuff she hasn't talked about and I've just seen. And it's just with your kids, if they see you listening to Christian music and being passionate about, it's going to be really easy for them to, I see, Hattie and them, they're not dancing to trash music, they're dancing to Toby Mac and stuff and they love it.
Yeah.
But it's because it's what they've seen.
Yeah.
It's not because you're like, hey, we don't listen to this kind of music. We do listen to this kind in this house. Like,
Right.
it's just.
Well, it reminds me too of like, yeah, our actions got to line up with our words and our expectations. But it reminds me of players that we get so frustrated with that say, oh, I'm putting the work in. I love it. But they're actually not doing it. Mm. And then they're not getting the results, and they're super frustrated or whatever, or they're just going to go blame everybody else. In our spiritual lives, if we're actually not doing the little things of just drawing near to God on a daily basis, and we're not living what we're saying or what we're putting on social media or everything that's...
The truth is undefeated.
Right?
It comes eventually. Like,
right,
it will
right.
rise eventually. Sometimes it's in the short term. Sometimes it's in the long term. But...
Right.
I mean, you're either getting it done
Yeah.
or you're not,
Yeah.
and the truth will come out.
It's interesting. The for you to bring up that hunger is inspired. You know, because if you think about it, like when you're a kid growing up wanting to play basketball, like for me it was Michael Jordan, it was Reggie Miller, it was those guys. I was like, dang, I'm
Iverson,
inspired by the way they play. Allen Iverson for you, right?
White chocolate.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
were my guys.
And so, but that's what creates the hunger in you.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put this back on the audience. We're gonna ask you guys, what is it that has inspired you to be hungry in whatever, maybe in your profession or what you want to do, or even spiritually? That would be really cool if you guys would hit us up on social media. PC Henry, or your Patch Henry, right?
Patch Henry.
Pat C Henry on Instagram and Twitter. I am Colin Stevens 12. Izzo is Coach Izzo.
Is it Coach
right?
Dot Izzo?
Right. Coach Dot
Izzo.
He is not Tom's nephew or son or anything like that, right? But he did say that Tom can buy Coach Dot Izzo, at some price. But like, let us know, like, what inspires you to do more? What inspires you spiritually to have a hunger that you haven't maybe had otherwise? You know, is it somebody that you follow on social media? Or is it somebody that in your life that is like you see every day? Or is it somebody that you don't have any clue of who they actually are? Have you read a book? Have you been in the Word, and like you just feel like God is moving something in your spirit that doesn't really make sense, that you can't really explain to anybody? But that inspiration thing for hunger is everything, because I think that lack of inspiration is why the Warriors are not going to win the 2019 NBA championship.
It's coming back.
All right. So maybe I'll be running a 5K in June. So, yeah, we'd love to hear from you. We appreciate you listening, and we'll see y'all next time. We'll listen. You guys can hear us next time. We out.